And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
I ain't got nobody. Oh, and there's nobody that cares for me. There's nobody that cares for me.
Yeah, I'm just a gigolo. I'm for sale. I'm for sale for the highest bidder. But you know what? Nobody wants to give me any money because I don't put out.
Come take a chance with me.
The only thing I want to do, I just want to be left alone, And my wife's got dibs on that one. And she's with me on this. We're just trying to be left alone. Are you allowed to be left alone? No. So this is one thing, off air, we've been talking about this. This is what this last half hour is going to be about, and I want to share this with you. Secession, that's where this is probably going to go. Secession as an individual, secession as a group. Heck, we got Southern Arizona wants to secede to be more communist. I mean, so I'm just going, whatever. Am I allowed to leave? Am I good? As an individual, can I go over, just sit here on my little farmlet and we're good? Probably not. Then you have, who's going to take Ron Paul's place? My first response was, he's around, he's a healthy guy, he's having fun, but, he's not going to be around forever. So you think somebody like his son Rand or somebody's going to take it? Is there somebody else out there? I'm of the opinion that nobody's going to take his place, nor should anybody take his place. There shouldn't be a place to take. We should take his place as individuals for ourselves. That's what this whole thing is about. If you need to be led to freedom, well, then you're not going to be free once you get there anyway, because somebody's always controlling you, calling it freedom. So I'm just, in discussion on that.
If you had to convince somebody to be free, do they deserve it?
I don't think they could even sustain it, or even understand it if you got to do that. And one thing that Bill said, he goes, the Constitution, get back to the Constitution, you got to do the Constitution. He goes, that's where the end began. Explain yourself on that one.
What that means is that in 1791, when the Constitution was ratified, we hear a lot of noise, especially from the right and the supposed individualist and non-interventionist individualists, that if we go back to the original Constitution, everything will be set right and we'll be on the yellow brick road to salvation and self-sufficiency. Nay, nay, bunny rabbit. That Constitution was built from the beginning as a blueprint and a doomsday machine to build the biggest government this earth has ever seen. And that's what we have. And some people will say, well, Bill, no, I think that's wrong. To which I will quote, and I paraphrase Lysander Spooner, if the Constitution is such that it can't prevent what has been done, or it has actually advocated it because it's been done, then for either one of those, it doesn't even deserve to exist.
And there's a replacement? I mean, is there such a document? Is there a consolidation of we're together to fend off what?
It speaks to the biggest problem we have, which is the fact that people think that we need government in the first place. Limited government doesn't exist, hasn't existed, will never exist, because once a government has the ability to have a monopoly of force, and it can fine, cage, maim, and kill those people who resist, and provide the regulatory framework and the taxation framework, and the cops, the law enforcers, who will enforce these things, that is the end has begun then. That's when everything is going to go in the direction that we have gone in today, which is bigger and bigger government and bigger slave states, which is where we live now.
Okay, we're in this, how do you put it? Battered wife syndrome, okay? And how do you break free of that? And if you do, are you just going to, jump into another relationship, which is usually what happens, okay, and usually just as bad or worse? Or, like some people, they just don't like being battered, and they say, no, I'm done. Well, it brings to mind one thing I just found out is some people, there was a young man I had on from the Netherlands somewhere, or some recently freed Eastern Bloc country or something, that would give you an international passport. It was, I'm a citizen of nobody passport. So it was a couple of months ago he was on, and we talked about it and how he did it and why and all that kind of stuff. I found out that here in America, you cannot give up your passport and your U.S. citizenship unless you're going on another farm. You don't want to be U.S. livestock, well, gosh darn it, you better be signing up to be somebody else's livestock.
We have to have a state destination, whether it be Uruguay or Croatia or something like that, in order to actually go to the embassy and renounce your U.S. citizenship. And by the way, the renouncement of your U.S. citizenship is the only way we have, as Americans, to cut that umbilical cord, that tentacle from the IRS to ourselves. There's no other way to do it because, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we can go work in Afghanistan, we can go work in Africa, we can go work in bloody Antarctica. The IRS will still follow you, and because you are a U.S. citizen, they will still have the capability to extract whatever amount of wealth they wish from you.
Wow. The amazing part of that is that they care so much that I have to be on somebody else's farm. I mean, what it betrays is the idea and the concept. It's not about America, MK America. It's about being on the grid. It's about being in the system, some plantation, not necessarily even yours. Because
a nation state is nothing more than a tax jurisdiction. Nation state is a fancy, patriotic, flag-waving, and histrionic way to describe a tax jurisdiction. And it's also a way to drive people to fight for said tax jurisdictions with other tax jurisdictions. If people could get it in their skulls that what's happened is that their entire freedom and liberty has been expropriated as a result of their refusing to refuse, as a result of their corroboration, their collaboration, and their fear, if we can find some way to step away from that on a mass base, we can make progress to less or zero government. Until that time, though, the zero government folks out there, the anarchists, the however you want to describe them, will always be outnumbered.
Okay, all right, I'll give you a good example. Gregg, when you had, how much time we got? Let's spend a little bit of time on this into this segment. One, you had the Rachel, beautiful woman that is graduating now, is from your first marriage. You had a second marriage. He goes, you know what? I'm going to get somebody that's not as U.S. American spoiled. So he goes to the Philippines to find a wife. And she's all over this, slaughtering chickens. Heck yeah, that's what you do, man. That's how you get dinner.
No, not quite.
But anyway, so you have a marriage now that she's much more appreciative of what you've accumulated and had here. I would imagine you have 2 young children, and I remember when it was in the 90s when you first had your children that you claimed them as dependents, but they didn't have Social Security numbers. And then you went through the IRS back and forth and so on. Just give us a brief story of how that came out and what happened.
Well, we had to get passports for them, and therefore we had to have socialist security numbers. Okay, social security numbers, excuse me. And we brought the children in with us to the Social Security office and with the birth certificates, which the midwife had filled out when children were born. And they refused to accept that my children were real and give them numbers because they had never been in the medical establishment. So I then had to take them to a friend of mine who was an MD and plunk them down on his counter and say, are they real? Will you write up a medical thing saying that they're really children? Which he found quite entertaining and was more than happy to write a medical report saying he did a checkup on them. And then we could get Social Security numbers to get passports to get them out of the country if we needed to. But I didn't actually go to the Philippines looking for a wife, and my wife is not much different than many others. She doesn't actually like to kill chickens. She likes to eat the chickens. She will help, though.
I'm sorry.
Does your wife also does she retain a Filipino passport or not?
No, when she became an American citizen back in 2001, she was forced to renounce her citizenship. And the Philippines is one of the only countries besides the USA which does not allow dual citizenship. However, the Philippines did change their laws, and now she is once again a Filipino citizen because she was born there.
That's not correct. If you check the dual citizenship of certain members, high-ranking members of this administration and others over the past 100 years.
Israel! Yeah, I know where that's going. See, we've been living this for a long time. This is how lots of experience in that we've already been made aware of. Hopefully you can avoid it. We'll talk about it more when we come back.